Terrence Echols, and I am your host. This is the Echols Unlimited Podcast, and this is basically my podcast about whatever I want it to be, We're going to have a emphasis, and it's going to specialize and talk about basketball, college basketball, women's basketball, men's college basketball, men's NBA, WNBA, like pretty much whatever has to do with basketball, even high school basketball, we'll get into as well. And I'm just going to start by introducing myself. I'm Terrence Echols. I am 20 years old, and I am a sophomore in college, just finished my sophomore year, and I'm an avid basketball fan. And the reason why I'm hosting this podcast is because I just would like to give myself an avenue and a voice for my opinions, my thoughts, any type of way I want to just talk about the sport that I grew up loving and that I still love to this day. I'm an aspiring coach for the game of basketball. My goal in life is to be an assistant coach at a Power 5 school. That's something that I've set out for myself and that I believe I will achieve one day. And so let's just get into, what I plan to have this podcast be about. I plan to hold interviews. I plan to do this probably weekly, if not more than that. I plan on interviewing a variety of people for a variety of reasons, and we're just going to talk about life, basketball, anything that has to do with anything relevant, anything relevant with what's going on into American society today, and anything that interests me in the realm of college or NBA basketball, anything that I find to be interesting or special or worth talking about, and so I would love to discuss topics and issues that surround anyone who listens to this. So if anyone comes up with any topics or issues that they'd like for me to discuss or that they'd like to discuss with me, I'd love to have you on. I'd love to talk about it. I have a passion for this, and I want to see where it goes from here. So to start off today's episode, I'm just going to be giving my reactions to the Eastern Conference and Western Conference Finals. I watched pretty much every game of both series, and I have mixed emotions about both series. So let's start with the Western Conference Finals, with the Golden State Warriors going up against the Portland Trail Blazers. For the Warriors, I believe that they were going into it knowing that it was going to be more difficult than the past 2 years, because they didn't have their best player in Kevin Durant. They didn't have their best scoring option, in my opinion. They didn't have a guy who's guaranteed to score 20 to 25 to 30 points in any playoff game, who's going to lead the team not only offensively but can give his best effort defensively, blocking shots, getting steals, defending with his length on the wing. And I thought that was very important, that Golden State played well without him, and they were able to hold on and, defeat Portland pretty soundly. You'd think that when a team loses its most talented player, they wouldn't perform up to the standards that they'd been used to, but they, in my opinion, they played better in this series than they had in the two series prior to that, when they played against the Clippers in the first round and when they played against Houston in the second round. They went back to their original crew, with Curry, Bogut, Iguodala, Green, and Thompson. They started that group a couple times. They even started Kevon Looney a game, and they even started Alfonso McKinney for a game in the Western Conference Finals, who is like an undrafted free agent who just signed with the team this year. He was playing in the G League last year, so I thought that was great that they were able to come together and play well. I thought that Steph Curry was phenomenal. He made shots. He followed the game plan to the best of his abilities, and he performed really, really well. And I thought Klay Thompson, he may not have had the best statistical series, but I thought his length on defense was very important. I thought that the defense he played on Damian Lillard was stellar. I thought that Damian Lillard was neutralized to a point where it was difficult for him to get shots off, especially the way the Warriors would build up a wall against him around the three-point line. Lillard would cross the half-court line with the ball in his hands. Portland likes to spread it out. They normally have like either CJ or someone else up there with him, or Seth Curry up there with him. But besides that, everyone's either on the wing or in the corner. There's not much cluster happening up at the top of the key. And I thought that the Warriors' defense that they played on him up there was great. He didn't shoot well the first few games. I think he only had one game where he shot well, and I also heard that he even cracked his rib in one game, which also probably subdued his effects to a point, which is that's frustrating. That's sad to hear that a guy of Damian Lillard's caliber was unable to perform to his best level, because I would have loved to see a matchup of him and Steph Curry where they're both playing at their best. And because in my opinion, Lillard is probably the third best point guard in the NBA behind Curry and Harden. I believe that he and Steph Curry are the two best guards in the league right now, which is why they were the first team All-NBA selected guards, And so another thing for the Warriors that was huge for them was Draymond Green. And Draymond Green played very well this series, We saw that how he was able to not exactly perform offensively like he has in the past. Like, specifically, I remember the finals game 7 back in 2016 where he had about like 30-something points, like a triple-double, where he's not the same Draymond Green in that sense where he can score and put up a lot of points for you every night, but he's going to contribute in other ways, that's exactly what he did. He got rebounds, he pushed the ball in the break, he found open guys, and he played amazing defense. He was all over the guards, and then he would get down to the bigs, and he was able to play very, very well, and I was very impressed with the way Draymond Green played. I'm personally, since I'm not a Warriors fan, and I was surprised that I was so happy that he played well. It's great to see someone who puts that type of effort into their game and into their craft, and they don't emphasize the offensive tools that every player in the NBA has. Everyone can make a three. Everyone can shoot. Everyone can dribble. Everyone can get to the rim, make layups. Except for a few players here and there who maybe can't shoot as well or can't drive as well. But everyone has an offensive skill set that allows them to score at a high level. It's the NBA. It's the best league in the world. So I just find that a guy who can be as effective as Draymond Green is and not be the best scorer in the world is very good for the game, in my opinion. And I saw Andre Iguodala's hurt. He's probable for the next round, so we'll see if he comes back. But the Warriors played well, and congrats to them. It's their 5th straight NBA Finals. They're looking for a three-peat. They're looking for their 4th overall in the past 5 years, that's almost unheard of in this NBA. Guys like LeBron James have made it 8 times in a row, but he was only able to win 3. Teams like the early 2000s Lakers made it like 4 times. They were able to win 3. Yeah, I thought that was great to see that the Warriors are back and that they're able to play as well as they did. And so now I just want to get into the Blazers side of it. For the Portland Trail Blazers, I can't tell you how much I admire Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum as people. First and foremost, Damian Lillard has done a lot for the city of Oakland. He's very he's very passionate about where he's from. He even wore an Oakland A's jersey to one of the games at Oracle, which I thought was pretty cool. He's back in his hometown, playing at such a big stage in the Western Conference Finals with a chance to go to the NBA Finals, which we all know is the pinnacle of basketball. That's probably the greatest accomplishment any basketball player can have, is to play and to win in the NBA Finals. So if the fact that he had the chance to do that in front of his hometown fans, like, that is very admirable. You respect the man's game. You respect how he was able to put away the Thunder with that shot he had in Game 5 against Paul George, where he just took a right sidestep dribble into his three, and he knocked it down. He won the game for Portland, and I love how he was able to get All-NBA second team. I thought he might have been good enough for the first team, but it's hard to eclipse guys like Steph and Harden, who both had great years this year. So I'm very proud of Damian Lillard, and I'm very impressed with the season he was able to put together. His backcourt mate, CJ McCollum. CJ McCollum is probably one of my favorite players in the NBA, not only because he is also a fellow podcaster, shout out to the Pull Up Pod, but because he has come from such rough circumstances. Growing up in Canton, Ohio, where he wasn't the biggest guy on the court, he wasn't the richest guy, he wasn't the fastest, he wasn't the strongest, he wasn't the tallest. He just had the most skills, and he had the most heart, and he brought that mentality to Lehigh University, which academically is an amazing school. However, their basketball is very lackluster. They're not the Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, Kansas, Syracuse. They're not at that level. So the fact that he was able to do that and go there and turn himself into a first-round pick and beat a team like Duke in the first round of the NCAA tournament is a testament to the type of player he is, and his preparation and his determination, and I just admire the fact that, he struggled his first couple of years in the NBA. He had injuries, which is unfortunate. It's sad to see when a guy gets injured, especially a guy with his talent. He was able to fight back, become the NBA's most improved player, and now he's a borderline all-star guard in the NBA. So I thought that he struggled late in games, especially in games 3 and 4, which is sad to see. So as a man, I respect CJ completely. He has my utmost respect, even though in the late games, in games 3 and 4, he missed some floaters, he missed some open threes. Guys miss shots, but in order to play at this level and to be as good as to play a team as good as the Warriors, you can't miss those shots. And I felt bad for him. I felt like he had prepared himself for that situation. He was able to step up and take those shots in that situation. However, it just didn't fall. And sometimes you just don't make shots, and that's unfortunate, because I felt like CJ, he had wanted it. He talks about on his podcast a lot about how he went through a lot after losing to the Pelicans last year in the first round of the NBA playoffs and getting swept. That's really tough. I feel bad, and I hope that next year they can come back and have an even better run, where they can win a few games in the Western Conference Finals and possibly even make the NBA Finals. You never know. Another interesting dynamic from that series, I thought, was Seth Curry and Steph Curry. People talked about how it's such a great thing. I have a younger brother. I thought that would be the coolest thing in the world, to go up against him and play against him at such a high level on such a big stage, and to see him thrive while my team is winning. I feel like that is the ultimate situation for Steph Curry, and I felt like he should be proud as a big brother and as someone who's probably helped with the development of Seth Curry, because unlike Steph's been a starter since he got into the league. Steph has exceeded all expectations, while Seth hasn't. He went to Duke, he played for the Team USA. He struggled to find a role in the NBA in the past few years. He has in Dallas and in Portland, where he might end up getting paid. He could get paid a good amount of money to come in and be a role player for a team, and possibly even like a borderline starting point guard in this league. I definitely see that type of potential in a guy like Seth Curry, because he's determined. He shoots the mess out of the ball, and his work ethic is great. I think he's worthy of getting paid a good amount, a good salary. I think he's worth having on a championship level team, because he can come in and make shots like he did in Game 2 and Game 3 against Golden State, because that's what you need at this level. You need guys who can shoot. We saw, as I'm going to get to, and I talk about the Eastern Conference Finals, the Bucks needed guys who could make shots, and so did Toronto. It came down to making shots, and the team with more shot makers ended up in the NBA Finals, which is the Toronto Raptors. So congratulations to them. The city's first ever trip to the NBA Finals, which is huge. Shout out to Toronto, such an amazing city in this country of Canada. Great country, and I'm happy for them. Even though I personally was rooting for Milwaukee. I wanted Milwaukee to come out with the win and make it to the finals, and I wanted to see a matchup of Giannis versus Kevin Durant, because I just don't think Kevin Durant can withstand Giannis's physicality, and I don't think Giannis could keep up with KD in the scoring department. So I think that was an interesting dynamic to see how those two could cancel each other out with their different play styles in their similar size. I wouldn't say they have similar build, because Giannis is sort of more built than KD. Kevin Durant's a little bit more slender. I think they're about the same height and length. So, but however, they have contrasting play styles. Kevin Durant relies on his finesse and his guard skills, his handles, his ability to rise up and shoot over defenders, while Giannis relies on his ability to get in the lane and rise over his defender in a different way by dunking on them. So thought that would be nice to see. But shout out to Toronto. Kawhi Leonard looked awkward. He looked hobbled in the last few games of that series. However, that's when I think he played his best. He came alive in the fourth quarters of each game, and in overtime in Game 3. So I thought that he played one heck of a series. I thought Kawhi Leonard has been on a tear this entire playoffs, especially when he took out my Sixers a couple of weeks ago. That still is tough on me. I'm still struggling getting over his heroics in Game 7 and that shot he hit from the corner. If your team loses, you're back at it the next time for another opportunity. So I can't complain too much about that. I just wanted to, just talk about just Toronto's ability to come alive and follow the game plan. They played great defense on Giannis, how they would wall up. Remember how I mentioned how they walled up on Damian Lillard, the Golden State Warriors did, past the three-point line? Toronto did the same thing, but in the lane, which is very hard, because Damian Lillard, he's a 6'3", 190-pound guard. He's not going to be bowling through people and jumping over everyone, while Giannis has this unique athletic ability to have such quick feet and such agile ability with the length and the power in his body, which is just a testability too. So shout out to Toronto. They played really well on defense. They made shots when they had to. Guys were able to come in and contribute. Guys like Fred VanVleet. Shout out to him. I think I saw a graphic that he was shooting in the last 3 games of the series. He shot 86% from 3, which is that's almost unheard of. That is a good shooting percentage for free throws, and the fact that he shot it from 3, which is the least efficient spot on the floor, the least efficient distance on the floor in terms of 2-point shots, free throws, and threes. Since that's the least efficient, I thought that 86% was insane. He had only missed 4 or 5, and he made 14. So, guys came in and they took care of their job. And even though I'm not exactly a Kyle Lowry fan, I'm happy for Kyle Lowry as well. for what he has gone through in the past year. You know, having his best friend get traded, and you know, everyone talking about how he's not good in the playoffs, like how he's a decent guard in the regular season, now he can't play in the playoffs. I thought that was good that he could, you know, silence that narrative and contribute very well to the Raptors' success and getting them to the NBA Finals. So I'm very happy as a basketball fan that I was given 10 great games of NBA basketball for the finals in both conferences. I wish Portland had won a little bit more. I wish Milwaukee was able to execute a little bit better and make shots down the stretch, especially in games 3, 4, 5, and 6. Shout out to the Warriors. Shout out to the Toronto Raptors. And, you know, I'm excited for the NBA Finals, and I can't wait to come back here and talk about more. And, yeah, it's going to be great. All right, so this was the first installment of the Echols Unlimited Podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening. I can't wait to get back at you guys and talk more. This is something I'm very passionate about, and, you know, let's see where this goes. All right.